So how is our hardwired need for connection different than neediness? Welcome back to the Secure Husband Podcast. Bruce Abbott, certified professional coach and founder of SecureHusband.com, the podcast where I help good men stop living on emotional autopilot. There's a misconception that if you need connection, you're needy, and somehow you have to be independent and not rely on anyone emotionally, and that needing love makes you weak. But that's a false belief, and it can be destructive in your marriage. Because your biological need for connection, how you are divinely wired, wanting love, wanting affection, closeness, emotional intimacy, that doesn't make you needy. It just means you're human. But if you don't know the difference between your healthy need for connection and your wounded need for validation, you're going to chase your wife ruled by anxiety. You'll shut down, withdraw to protect yourself. You're going to constantly walk that line between craving her and resenting her. And it's your survival brain that plays the tricks on you. Those false core beliefs that started with your inner boy. So let's look at why your need for connection is not a flaw and the difference between connection and codependent neediness. And I really want to make this clear because you're not needy because you want to be hugged or be appreciated, to have sex, to feel wanted, to feel emotionally close to your wife. That's not a character flaw. We've talked about this in a previous podcast. That's biology. From the moment you were born, your brain and body were wired to attach. Think about this as a baby. You cried for closeness. You reached out to mom and dad for comfort. You needed emotional attunement. You needed someone to see you and say, "You matter. I love you." That didn't end when you became an adult. And we've talked about attachment theory in adults, anxious attachment styles, avoidant attachment styles. This is just being human. This is being wired to seek closeness and safety and connection in relationships. So when that pain of disconnection happens in your marriage, it's not because you're needy. It's because something true is happening in your nervous system, but it's triggering a false core belief. See, when that need isn't met and you haven't done the healing, you start trying to get connection from a wounded place. And that's when it turns into neediness. And we'll talk more about the difference, but I just want you to look at what you've learned early on. And it all begins with noticing. If you're like most men that I coach, your story sounds something like this. I didn't grow up in an emotional household, or I was taught to tough it out. If I showed too much feeling, I was weak. If I spoke up, I was yelled at. I got attention when I performed, but not when I was vulnerable. So what did you do? You learned to shrink your needs, perform instead of connect. You avoided asking for what you really wanted, and you felt shame for desiring closeness. And you've carried that shame with you into your marriage. And then you fast forward to today, you crave connection with your wife, but you feel shameful about it. You feel embarrassed about it. You want more affection, but you avoid asking directly because maybe you were punished when you did. Bad husband. You want to feel wanted, but you're settling for being useful, tolerated. This is where you get to rewrite the story because now you can stop and just notice these things. And when you notice that you're not a boy anymore, trying not to be too much, that now you're a man and your need for connection is valid, you can stop judging yourself for having needs. And that's when you make a choice. You choose to accept your biological design without shame. Now, this isn't about becoming more emotional. It's about owning what's already true. And it involves that physiological part of you, your nervous system. It's wired to co-regulate. That's why when your wife hugs you, it calms your stress response. But when she turns away, your body experiences it as a threat, especially if you're wounded. So when you feel close, you feel safe. When you feel distant, you feel on edge. This isn't weakness, it's just how your body works. But if you fight it, that's when you get reactive, you numb out, you pretend you're fine, but you're spiraling down inside, and you try to meet your needs through control or withdrawal, numbing out with alcohol or porn or social media. But here's where you get to make a choice. Choose not to fight your design. Choose not to fight biology. Just lean into it and lead from it. Because you're allowed to want connection. You're allowed to ask for it. You're allowed to need it. But how you pursue it, that's where either strength or sabotage happens. And you have to go beneath the surface to that little boy inside of you, that inner part of you who learned that needing love meant losing it. It is such an important part of this process. It is in every podcast we do because somewhere in your early story, you had a moment or many moments where you reached for love and didn't get it. You asked for connection and were ignored. You expressed a need and were told no. Maybe you cried and were punished for that. You reached out, no one came. What did that boy inside of you learn through his circumstances? If I have needs, I'm a burden. If I want love, I'll get rejected. If I speak up, I'll be abandoned. That little boy is still influencing your marriage and probably most of the other areas in your life. But we approach this without guilt and self-blame and shame. We approach it with love and self-compassion because that's what that little boy needs. That's why he's responding the way that he does. That's why he hesitates to ask for what he needs. He chases affection when it's withheld. He overgives, hoping to be chosen. He shuts down when he doesn't get a response. He's not weak. He's scared. That's fear. We've talked about fear and courage. He doesn't need to be ignored. He needs to be led and loved. So you sit down with him and you say, hey, little guy, it's okay to want connection. You're not too much. And I've got us now. We have an unbreakable connection that's filled with love and respect and compassion. And this is where healing begins. And you connect to something bigger, a higher power, a source of unconditional love and truth. God, universe, spirit, whatever's comfortable for you. You reach out to that higher power and you connect that inner boy to that higher power and you learn truth. You learned that you are worthy of love and affection, that you are worthy and that you don't have to earn it anymore. And as you heal, you can better understand the difference between healthy desire and wounded neediness. Because a healthy need for connection comes from a grounded place. You can express it calmly. You get to honor your emotions, and you respect your wife's autonomy. And that healthy need for connection does make room for no without collapsing. But you can approach it from a loving, compassionate perspective, loving to you and to your partner. Because when you come at connection from a wounded place with neediness, that's where it comes from anxiety and it demands reassurance. And then you collapse when you don't get the response you want. And oftentimes you feel entitled to her body or energy and you try to manipulate affection through guilt or through performance. One is a loving request. The other is you're screaming out for a lifeline. It sounds more like a rescue mission. You see, one says, I would love to be close right now. I'm okay either way, but yeah, I'd love to be close with you right now. The other says, I need you to give me something so I feel whole again. And your wife can feel the difference in that in an instant. You see, if you're leading from that second person, it's time to go back to that boy inside of you and to your higher power. Connect, find truth, find your worth, bring him peace, bring him love, so you as the adult man can lead with secure connection and energy. You show up now as a man who offers connection and not the little boy who's begging for it. You really have to make that connection with yourself before you can get connection with others. So what does that look like? Well, you speak your needs clearly, not with pressure, not with manipulation, but with truth and honesty in a calm, grounded way. You initiate affection without expecting it to fix you. Yeah, you stop chasing your wife, but you stop chasing your wife from neediness. It doesn't mean that you don't stop giving affection and initiating. You can still initiate sex with confidence. You acknowledge your emotions. You don't dump them all over your wife. You give space without punishing, but you invite. You attract without collapsing. You ask. You speak up for what your needs are, but in a loving, compassionate way. And when you do that, you start to lead yourself. That's what makes you magnetic. That's what makes your woman attracted to you. When she feels safe around your emotions, when she feels free from the guilt, she's respected in her own timing and loved without performance. She wants to connect, but not because you're guilting or manipulating or you're pushing, but because you stopped chasing from a needy place and just started connecting from a healthy place. That's what secure energy looks like. And it's not giving up because you're still trying to connect. You're just coming at it from a different place. You're coming at it from a man who still desires love and affection, but doesn't need it to feel whole. This is the balance. You're not trying to fill this hole inside of you with her. You can fill it with other things. Yes, affection and intimacy and connection needs to be part of that. But you build up those other areas in your life, your friendships, your hobbies, connections with male friends. Build up your career, health, your fitness, all those areas of life that you may have been abandoning. You create a life that's a balance. And we've said this before, to where your wife becomes just a beautiful part of this full life and not your life in its entirety. A man who loves to connect but doesn't need it to feel whole. And from there, you stop going numb. You stop pretending that you don't care. You stop acting like this lone wolf. You don't go the opposite direction and shut down and completely distance and distract. You stay there. You stay present with confidence and courage. This takes a lot of courage. And inside, you say, I love you. I want closeness. And I am already enough. And you're saying that to yourself, to that inner boy, because that's what your divine guidance has told you. You're worth it. You are loved. You are already enough. And from there, you project that to your wife. That's truth and honesty and authenticity. I love you. I want closeness. And I'm already enough. And I'm worthy of it. And now you offer love instead of needing it. And you attract connection instead of chasing it. You calm your nervous system. That helps her calm her nervous system instead of triggering it. And from there, you create emotional safety without trying to control the outcome. That's what a secure husband does. Because in the past, we kept trying to control the outcome. And trying to do that, we suppressed our need for love instead of letting it thrive. And from here, we lead with strength and clarity and peace. We are divinely wired for connection. It's not weakness. That's beautiful design. So you don't need to hide your desire for closeness. Stop feeling shameful for wanting that. There is no shame in wanting connection. You don't need to shut down your heart to prove your masculinity. You don't need to chase or beg for love. You just lead. You heal and you lead. You're not too much. You're just becoming the man who finally knows what love really looks like from the inside out. That's becoming the secure husband. I hope this podcast was helpful for you. If so, hey, give me a review. Hit that subscribe button for more Secure Husband episodes. And share this episode with someone who you think may need to hear this. Visit securehusband.com for more resources. Hey, book one-on-one coaching with me. I'll see you again on the next Secure Husband podcast. Thanks for listening.